All right. We're not, are we recording? Yes. Are we good? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Western Placer Waste Management Authority Board meeting for March 13th, 2025. We will call the meeting to order and begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead us all in. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. All right, and roll call, please, Emily.
Director Halden. Director Hadeschelt.
Here.
Director Landon.
Here.
Director Reedy.
Here.
Chair Gore.
Here. And the statement of meeting procedures.
Welcome to the Western Placer Waste Management Authority meeting of March 13th, 2025. Agendas are available on the table outside this meeting room. If you are here to speak on a matter not on the agenda, you may do so during public comment. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. Accessibility information is provided on the meeting agenda. Please turn off or put in silent mode all cell phones and other electronic devices. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Emily. And next we have public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public to comment on an item that is not on our agenda. So is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? And seeing no movement in the gallery, we will close public comment and bring it back to item 6, announcements and information. And we'll start with our report from our general manager. Hi, Scott.
Hi, thank you, Chair Gore. I'll start with an update from the operations team as they continue to successfully contain the contaminated stormwater that's on site. It's been an enormous task, a lot of effort, a lot of man hours put in, but Will has led the effort, and we've been successful. And the break in rain until yesterday gave us a little bit of time to get ahead of the game, so things are moving in the right direction there, thanks to the effort of Will and his team. There have been a significant uptick in violations related to landfill operations from state and local regulatory agencies over the last 6 months. WAPMA staff has been working closely with our contractors' compliance and ops staff to address the immediate issues, determine the root cause of these issues, and recommend measures to prevent future violations. So more on that to come. We have hired an accounting technician to complete our newly formed accounting department. She will start the first week of April, providing much needed relief for our administrative and fiscal officer. Recruitment for an additional environmental resource specialist will start next week, so we're looking forward to getting an extra body on site in that area as well. Given our limited office space and our growing staff, we're working with a contractor. There's some long-term and short-term measures for expansion. Long-term measures will be coming to the board later. Short-term, we're looking at working with our contractor to take over the entirety of the administrative building and relocate them to a desirable spot on site. So hopefully we'll be bringing an amendment to the board for review next month to move on that. The WAPMA engineering staff, Ryan and Anel will be presenting at a SWANA conference in early April, the SWANA Western Regional Symposium, related to the challenges of building a module over the winter.
You can speak to that for sure.
Yes.
Note to ourselves, let's not do that again.
And it's not just because it's in Yosemite at a great spot. It's actually a good conference to head to. I will be speaking a little local, not quite as fancy of a location, at the California General Services Association meeting, and it's really on the MRF construction project and the benefits of a mixed waste processing system. And lastly, we will be rescheduling our MRF ribbon cutting ceremony for a date in later April or early May. Emily will be reaching out to all of you to work through a date that works for everybody. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Scott, any questions?
Nope.
No. All right, thank you. Do I need to open each of these items to the public? Ethan?
Oh, there you go, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, not on that one. Not on
Okay,
those.
so not these announcements and information?
Right,
Okay,
right.
great, all right. Then with that, just one item, Scott, and you mentioned office space, and I know we had talked prior to you coming on and we were redoing the structure.
Yeah.
We did talk about how this is an excellent room that doesn't get completely used, so, if you need to put bodies in here, I suppose it's a reasonable place to put bodies. I mean, people, the bodies doesn't quite sound right, does it?
Yeah, we'll definitely look
Yeah,
into that as
Madam
well.
Chair, on that point,
Yeah.
do you rent this facility out?
No.
Okay.
Do we rent it out?
Yeah,
Or we-
I've been in
Like
this,
for weddings and that.
Oh, yeah, like parties? No,
yeah.
we own the
I've been in
facility.
this room for a group called the Placer Nevada South Sutter North Sacramento. It's a sub-watershed of a group that I oversee, and they've had their meetings here.
I
and
believe we
didn't-
open those up for meetings at no charge.
Just,
Yes,
As
yeah,
a-
if members of the community are interested in a meeting, we're happy to schedule it
Okay.
here.
good to know. I was
Yeah.
looking for a place recently, so,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, for a meeting, not a wedding, just to clarify.
Never know.
Yeah.
We'll do those
Let me check. Yep, still married.
All right. Thank you, appreciate it, Scott. Next, we will move on to item 6B, which is the presentation from Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Emily, did you want to introduce that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Gore. So for your board tonight, we have a presentation from Trolls Adrian and Matt Miller. Look at that, I got it right. From the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. They're going to share an update on some of the efforts that they have done on behalf of the WATMA and some of the future plans we have in the pipeline to use some of their lingo. So.
Right. Thank you, Emily. Good evening, honorable members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Again, I'm Trolls Adrian. I'm the Executive Vice President for the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, an organization that you all have been an investor in as on behalf of WAPMA for the past just under a year. So as Emily said, I'm here to give you a bit of an update on the activities that we've engaged in over the past, again, slightly under a year. And we'll talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about particularly the Circular Economy Hub that is, of course, in progress. A really exciting and important project, not just for WAPMA, not just for Placer County and its communities, but really for the entire region, which is something we're particularly excited about. So let's go to the next slide, please. If you will, just a bit of a refresher. I know you all represent communities, of course, here that are all investors in the Greater Sacramento Economic Council and probably know us relatively well. And thank you as well for that, for your individual communities' participation. But for the benefit of the public, we are an economic development organization covering the Greater Sacramento marketplace, about six counties, 22 communities. We also have over 50 CEOs on our board of directors. Our current board chair is the Chancellor of UC Davis, Gary May. And really what we do is we grow the region's economy, right? That's the purpose of what we do. That's what we achieve, hopefully on a daily basis. Since we have been founded, we're about to celebrate our 10th anniversary, rather. We have helped recruit, retain, or expand over 120 companies in the region. These numbers that you see on the screen are actually up until July of last year. So we're over 130 companies now, over $15 billion in economic output, and over 33,000 jobs have been created either directly by those companies or by their suppliers and retail stores, et cetera, as a result of our efforts. For context, that is actually just around a third of all net new job creation in the Greater Sacramento marketplace over that time. So that tells you a little bit about the impact that a strong regional economic partnership can have. If If you'll go to the next slide, please. So why are we working with WAPMA and the team and Scott and Emily and Eric on the work that you all are doing? Really what it comes down to is when you're trying to seed a new industry or a new vertical, you start by building market reputation and building the assets that drive business development, right? And I will give you, I think when I came and spoke to you all last, we talked about SMUD as a really good example of this regionally for battery technology, for example, and for electric vehicle technology, where their status as a significant player in the market with a lot of flexibility and a lot of lofty objectives around it really attracts companies, right? So what then happens is you build a market reputation, you have an anchor, if you will, you can center everything around. Then that starts building companies that come into the market, taking a look at the market. They locate in the market. Then that drives more sort of a virtuous circle, right? You get on the short list, they make a final decision, which again builds market reputation. So that's the virtuous cycle that we're trying to effectuate through this partnership. Next slide, please. So what have we been doing to date? So first and foremost, your team is on our Competitiveness Council, which is the body of investors at the Greater Sacramento Economic Council that provides strategic guidance to the board of directors. In fact, we just worked on our 3-year strategic plan, which was released and approved by our board at our board retreat last year. That was developed by the Competitiveness Council. And WAPMA was at the table for developing this, and circular economy is one of the pillars within our clean tech vertical, and WAPMA is identified as a key anchor for that industry in our strategic plan. So lots of activity there. I also want to just point out that your team has been, really they get a gold star for participation on our Competitiveness Council and all the other opportunities that we offer to participate in the work that GSEC does. Meeting with a lot of our clean tech prospects. They're about a third of our pipeline right now of inbound businesses. Going and meeting with delegations, et cetera, to really speak on behalf of the region's clean tech ecosystem, and also hosting companies here on site, which we've done on multiple occasions. On that note, the thought leadership that the team has brought to the table is really, really essential in our ability to recruit companies, even when they don't necessarily locate right here on site, because we, of course, still are working on the real estate aspect, but having that ecosystem being built up is really, really critical. The final piece is we have actually made some significant strides around the Circular Economy Hub. One of the things we did was connect Scott and Emily to Buzz Oates. We had a really productive call with Larry Albaugh and his team about some of the, basically there were some conversations around the fact you have 2 neighboring sites here, some shared infrastructure, and potentially even some shared partnerships around fueling hubs, et cetera, that could be developed through synergies between what goes on here on site and what's going to happen at the Placer Commerce Center next door. So that's really exciting. We've also done a lot of introductions. I'll detail those in a minute. And then we provided some data and evidence around refueling and fueling stations, both on hydrogen and on electric drivetrains that are potentially going to be developed here on site. So we have provided 7 business introductions to date. That's quite a bit, actually. We do we do about 100 projects a year at GSEC, so 7 to date with 7 to come. So about 14% of our pipeline has been directly or indirectly touched by the WAPMA team. And they range from companies looking to site hydrogen generation, hydrogen fueling stations, to waste to energy, waste to aggregate, waste to X, if you will, whatever it may be, who are either interested in potentially partnering with WAPMA now, utilizing the feedstock here, or are interested in down the road making partnerships happen when there's real estate available for doing that. Next slide, please. As I said, we've got another 7 in the pipeline. Again, I want to highlight, for example, Chevi, which is a major Korean EV charging manufacturer, which is evaluating the market for several stations and could be a potential partner here. All right, let's talk about future opportunities because we're not going to stop here. And we know you all have made a multi-year commitment. We're going to continue doubling down on this partnership. So one of the things that we did recently, and my colleague Matt Miller is here, our Chief Strategy Officer, conducted this analysis. We wanted to give you a sense of what the impact could be of a full build-out of the Circular Economy Hub here on site. These are still very preliminary numbers, and they can be refined and will be refined over time. But what we basically looked at is what if over about a 10-year period, 30 to 45% of the property gets built out? That would generate somewhere between 2,800 and 4,200 jobs directly, by the way. We're not even talking indirect here. Up to about $1.8 billion in personal income throughout the region. Almost 7 to over 10 billion in economic output. And then in addition to that, and I want to stress, we did not measure this because we don't want to go out and say numbers that are too fluffy on this. But I of course want to stress that this is going to generate substantial local property and sales tax revenue for unincorporated Placer County, but certainly also for the cities who are invested in WAPMA because of the, if you will, a multiplier effect of the jobs that are going to be created here on site. So what you really are working on here is a project of major regional significance. I mean, these numbers are quite substantial. I mean, this would range among one of the larger developments and more impactful developments from a job standpoint and economic impact standpoint in the region. All right, so what are we going to work on next? Well, as I mentioned, we are going to continue refining this impact modeling. Why that matters is, well, number one, we want to make sure you all are informed about the impacts, if you will, of this activity. But secondly, it's going to help drive market interest and developer interest into a hub like this, right? So showing up with numbers always helps when you try to recruit players into the market. What we're also going to do, utilizing those numbers, is we're really looking to build our clean tech strategy, the vertical within that has to do with circular economy. We want to build it around WAPMA as the anchor, if you will. This is a proven model. I think Supervisor Gore, you saw it in Germany with these very specialized industry-specific industrial hubs that they have there. We also once we have established that GSEC strategy around circular economy, we're then going to actually support the team in developing a business model, building a business case for the Circular Economy Hub. From there, we'll be able to go out and engage the ecosystem, engage potential master developers, because you want specialty developers who really understand this space, and then you can actually go into having infrastructure development, construction, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the next steps. I would anticipate that most of these steps should be completed over the next year or so. Probably going into maybe in a year or so beyond that, depending on the pace we're able to move at and how the market looks. But that's essentially the process that we're looking to move. That's our pretty faces. Nothing more to say about that, but we are very proud to be the number 3 EDO in the Economic Development Organization in the world. We will apply again next year for IADC, so maybe we will actually be number 1, so that wasn't a moment of misspeaking. But just a brief update from us. I want to see if you all have any questions.
Questions?
No questions. I'm really bummed that you
I know.
just missed
You know what, Emily, could you just do me a favor, or whomever it is behind the scenes, put up the slide deck and just show the economic
Yeah.
impact that the development on the east portion of the property could have. I think that would be really helpful
Yeah.
for Director Halden just
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah, and I'm
and
happy to
maybe
go
just-
through that again if you would like, or.
No.
Yeah,
No?
okay.
I
You
can
can look
listen
at
to
it.
the
Okay.
meeting afterwards. And is this in our packet?
No, I was going to, yeah, thank you. I was going to
No,
ask if we could get the PowerPoint.
We'll share this
Yeah.
with your board
Oh, yeah.
after.
Did you finish your comment?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say really, really encouraging and appreciate, it's great to see kind of where it's going and the successes that you've had so far, and really appreciate the work that you're doing. And Emily, I think like really good job on your part of thinking, hey, maybe we should engage on this, because I think there's just some really limitless potential here. So it's great to see some exciting opportunities coming in the future.
Let's see, I'm going to open this up to the public in case anybody from the public has a question or comment? No. Well, Trolls, thank you. And really, I do think it's great that we're actually sort of trying to be forward-thinking on what we're doing with that property, and the opportunity to perhaps partner with Buzz Oats out there. That's terrific, and guarantee that the smell will go away at some point. And really, there's such an opportunity in this area for all sorts of different businesses, which is really exciting. So we're glad to have you partner with us and appreciate the work that you are all doing with us.
Thank you.
The Northwestern grad on this dais will know who said this, but one man's trash is another man's treasure, and right? Is that it? Who said that? You went to Northwestern, didn't you?
I did, but I don't know who said it.
No, nobody who went to Northwestern said that, evidently, but really, I mean, it is,
Yeah.
you're looking at this not as, you're looking at it for its greater potential, and thank you for your thoughtfulness on that.
Well, and thank you for your leadership on this. This is, as we discussed when you came on board, this is not there are not too many utilities with this kind of foresight and vision, and so thank you for that.
All right, thanks, Trolls. Thank
you.
you, Mr. Miller. All right, we will move to item 6C, which is our financial report. Hi, Eric.
Thank you, Chair Gore. Your board has the financials for January in your packet. We continue to exceed our revenue projections to the tune of about $7.6 million. Again, a bulk of that is from the organics, the first installment of the organics grant revenue that we received. And then we continue to track below our projections for expenses. Again, much of that has to do with the capital projects and the timing thereof. But at this point, we're looking extremely solid on finances. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions from board members?
No?
All right, then we will move to item 6D, the tonnage reports.
All right, good evening tonight, Madam Chair, fellow board members. Before you are the tonnages through January, and just wanted to point out a couple weather-related drops that we've seen. Besides those drops, we are more or less tracking as we should be. In particular, let's look at green waste. So we had our peak green waste months in December and January, and our valley that we project for the past 3 years in February is deeper than it normally is. And that's basically the weather from the cold. The leaves have already been shaken off in December and January, and we're seeing low regrowth. And that'll pick up now as the weather warms up and the storms lighten up. And then another valley that you guys will see is in wood waste. And since this is based off the past 3 years of data, that wood waste dip that we see, which was supposed to be picking up based on the past 3 years, is due to the low severity of storms. So we're not seeing wood debris, PG&E crews having to go out and clear down trees and power lines and such. So that's why we're likely seeing that dip in wood waste. Again, that will peak up as the weather warms, and things will trend up. Besides that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from your board.
Thank you, Will. Any questions?
No.
All right. Then we will move to facility projects update. Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Board. A little bit heftier of a project update. Got a couple new topics in there this time, but we'll try and keep it moving. So as far as the MRF improvement project for Phase 2, the ADA improvements are still on hold pending the updated cost estimate from FCC's contractor. And for the occupancy of the maintenance building, we did get update that the epoxy for the floor and the methane sensors were being completed this week, and those were the final punch list items for them to actually occupy. So they expect that this next week they'll be moving into the new maintenance building. For Phase 3A, all the equipment installation that's possible at this time inside the MRF building itself is complete, and that's the mechanical installation, and the subcontractors are progressing on the electrical, enclosure, guardrails, those kind of detail items that surround all of the equipment. Fire protection installation is complete on the tipping floor, and they're currently working over the equipment within the MRF building. Then they'll move to the outside the building areas after that. complete installation for the fire protection system is estimated to be end of May, and then will be commissioned by the fire marshal shortly after. Fire watch will remain in effect all the way up until it is fully commissioned. For the alleyway, construction does continue, but the asphalt completion is anticipated by the end of the month, weather permitting, and that was including the storm that we just had, so we still should be on track for that. We don't expect it to be reopened immediately upon completion. Van Dyke does need to use that road for construction traffic, and working on those residue loadout, compressor building, paper dryer slabs, before we actually fully open that area back up. For phase 3B, big update is that on March 17th, they're going to be beginning the footing installation for the organics conveyor that will be coming from the MRF over to the composting area. They're going to start on the south footings for that on the 17th. The CASP area is on hold pending redesign of the compost pad, just due to the amount of wear that it's received throughout its time in operation as a composting area. Jumping up to the certificate of occupancy, we actually have received the formal title search documents and the centerline survey, and that's allowing us to currently be drafting a letter to the county that shows our understanding of where the easement lies, matches their letter that describes the easement itself, and then we will be awaiting their reply on that. So things are moving forward there. For the South Placer Wastewater Authority compliance project, we do have that granulator activated carbon filter ordered. The delivery of that unit is March 17th. We'll get that in place and running as soon as possible to finish up our pilot stage of that compliance project. Scott had alluded to this in his update. In here I have it called the WATMA Office Expansion Project. Like he mentioned, it's sort of a three-phased expansion, the first being more of a preliminary step aimed at addressing our current office space needs and our very near future office needs. And that would be by acquiring the offices in the southern portion of the building that are currently occupied by FCC. There's a little more information on what that would get us in the memo. For the second step, aimed at the short-term future office needs, be looking at repurposing the space that we currently have, like you had alluded to, that we could reuse maybe this room or some of our lobby space or the courtyard area that nobody ever walks out and enjoys during the day, could maybe be turned into an office or cubicle area. So that's the second phase. And then the third phase, which is a lot longer term build out, would be an actual expansion onto the building. And that might include things like new offices, new meeting rooms, maybe a dedicated boardroom, and then a repurposing of this room into an education center / storage / meeting room. This could be turned into a lot, and we could actually get a dedicated boardroom facility. So yeah, that's looking farther out into the future, but still fun to plan. We're working with getting an architect on board currently to go through those processes with us, and you'll be highly involved in the decisions made along the way for those projects. And then lastly, we have a South Compost Pond odor update as part of this. So going back into our records, we noticed that the South Compost Pond had been kind of emitting an abnormally strong odor profile as far back as April 2023. If you can harken back to that date, that's about when we had our C&D groundbreaking ceremony. And so that helped us kind of put a timeline on when that had started. At that time, WAMA staff did intervene by requiring FCC to purchase and apply an odor neutralizer. And then at that time, we did see the odors decay. But since then, we've seen seasonal influxes of this really strong odor continue as the pond has filled up, drained, aeration turned off, on. We've seen that odor profile come back, and it comes back often. So currently, despite FCC's current attempts, they have been unable to continuously manage the pond odors. In an effort to minimize the odors experienced by the community, staff recommend that the WATMA again intervene and independently identify a long-term solution. So before your board, for consideration this evening, as a portion of the amendment with Jacobs Engineering is allocated some funds to actually address this compost odor issue. Staff also intend to return to your board with a proposal to conduct an updated odor study. And I know that was a lot of information and a lot of topics, but if you have any questions about any of it, please let me know.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. All right, any questions?
Yeah, I have just a fundamental question. As I begin to, I've taken one tour, and then I remembered that Emily gave me this nice map. And so I'm not familiar with all the terms. When you say alleyway, is that this road out here or that
The
road
alleyway is the road that's to the east of, directly to the east of the Murph building. So it kind of goes in between the new C&D construction area
here?
and the Murph
Where
building.
we took the picture today, is that the alleyway?
No, so if you remember where the pond, there's like a big pond.
Yep.
In between that pond and the Murph.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm trying to see where we are.
We're here.
There's
Yeah.
the Murphy.
Yep. Oh, this is the alleyway there. Well, look at you
Actually,
showing
you
off.
know what? That's
Jeez.
actually not a bad
Why don't I
idea.
just call you?
In the future,
got
maybe, Ryan, could we have, and we could just keep these in the folders, a map of the site? So that way, when you're talking about it, we go, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, it's just, there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I really do need a map. And we just keep them in the little red folders, and that way we
Or-
can refer to them.
Or we don't, or PowerPoint and put it on the screen and with an arrow?
Yeah, I
maybe?
could circle it for
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can definitely get something like that together. And
Yeah.
it can either be attached to the project update memo if we're specifically discussing where projects are, or like I said, keep a permanent copy in there.
That'd be helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you. Shanti? Oh, sorry, Bruce.
So- And so, on here, number 8 is ponds, and the south pond, I assume, is that way?
Correct.
Is it that way, John?
South?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Versus the other pond, which is that way.
Yep.
And the one
You got
that's
it.
emitting the odor is that way.
Yep.
Okay, that was very technical. All right.
But it worked. All right, Director Landon.
Thanks. I had a question on the challenges with the pond. Does that, for the amendment, I guess I could ask my question when the amendment comes up.
No, but it's
Oh,
on
but it's
the
on-
consent
Yeah.
agenda.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
then
the
I'll ask
amendment is
now.
on consent.
So does that amount, that 250,000, is that something that was in the contract with FCC? And would that be reduced then with our contract with FCC? Or was it something that wasn't necessarily expected or included and it would have been an additional cost?
That full amount is also not just for the compost. There's other items. If you like dig deep into
Okay.
the back of the amendment, there is a table that kind of breaks down that 250 and shows which tasks
Oh, I see.
it is for.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't. If,
I think this particular work that we're doing that, with Jacobs was not in the contract with FCC. It's more trying to figure out what the root cause is, you know, why, you know, is there something different with the infrastructure that we need to do to maintain the odor, or, you know, trying to get more industry expertise on how to move forward with it.
Okay, got it. Okay, I see. It's the 88,000-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, is this the first time we've had the office expansion project on this report?
yes.
Okay, so I think, so this is the first time I'm thinking of office expansion, so I don't know if it'd be good to have an agenda item, or maybe have the general manager have one-on-one conversations with the board members. I have lots of ideas that I think might be really cheap and create. I mean, one of them, frankly, is we don't need this room for a board meeting. Like, we don't need, and this seems like prime office space for you guys to use. Doesn't make a lot of sense for us to use this. At Rockland, we host other agencies' board meetings every month. Like, so, you know, rather than us thinking that we have to have a big room like this, if you're really in need of space, this seems to me to be number one. And so, you know, just further discussion. I don't know if we make it an agenda item, but I think there's some ways to make some easy changes that could really help us.
Yeah, so part of phase 2 of that really is we're kind of going to be leaning on the architect a little bit more for what they view as a good repurpose of our current area, what takes, like you said, the least amount of financial input to get the most amount of spaces and that sort of thing. And all of that will go to your board before we even enter with a contract with them. So we'll definitely be talking more about this, and you'll be able to see what the more of the details of what that contract looks like. It's very, this is a very long term. That's why it's probably not going to always be on the projects update, because we're thinking very, very long term. But phase 2 is really that what's low hanging fruit? What can we do in here? What can we do in our lobby? Like I said, with that courtyard, these kind of spaces that are already there, but maybe can be repurposed.
But I think we could have one-on-one conversations where I could get your feedback and then also bring it back as an agenda item for discussion after we have some conversations.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that. I think it'd be useful to understand what the needs assessment that you went through to come to that conclusion, because I don't know if it happened. I just assumed it had happened before, and it doesn't sound like it has. So that would be useful as part of that agenda item or one-on-one.
And I might just ask, I know that we've grown, right? We've added staff. And right now we have FCC and the offices over there. But if we're putting a trailer in for them to utilize for office space, where do those funds come from?
That's what we're working through with them on offsetting some costs that they're carrying here versus the additional costs for the trailer. So we're trying to work to a cost neutral situation.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like, if we can have temporary office space here or someplace, that might save, I don't know. We'll leave it in your hands, but I know it's a long-term process, and I always hate spending, well, you're gonna have to spend money just to put in desks and cubicles, so there might just be we'll let you guys figure out the next step and the best cost for that. Yeah, I don't wanna play in it. All right. Well, thank you. No other questions on this item? And anybody from the public, just for, okay.
Consistency's sake. You're just asking for
For
consistency.
well, I don't actually have to, but, you know, maybe they're interested. All right. All right, now we will move to our item number 7, which is the tipping fee increase for fiscal year 25-26.
Thank you, Chair Gore. So tonight, staff are recommending that your board conduct a public hearing, and then following that public hearing, adopt Resolution 25.04 that increases the tipping fees effective July 1, 2025. And so you hopefully recall that last month we did talk about this idea of potentially raising the tipping fees and the necessity for that to ensure that the board is or that the WAP was in a very solid financial position over the next several years. And based on that discussion last month, your board did direct staff to move forward with conducting and setting up this public hearing and establishing or proposing the rate increase that is included in 25-04. So happy to go over any of those points that we discussed last month if you'd like, but short of that, I turn it back to your board to conduct the public hearing.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and open the public hearing on that. And then do we have questions from directors about this?
I do. I'm just curious about social media sites that you post this on.
Yeah, Emily, can you touch on that as well?
Yes, so this was posted on the Western Placer Waste Management Authority's Facebook and Instagram posts, as well as on our website, emailed to all the public information officers of the member agencies, as well as published in the local newspapers through Gold Country Media.
So no next door or any?
No, that's not a typical approach.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then I will open this item up to the public for any comment. Any comments from the public? All right, well, then I will bring it back to our board and close the public hearing. And with that, happy to take a motion.
I'll move approval.
Motion by Landon and a second by
Second.
John Reedy. And do we need to do a roll call on this one?
Yes, that
Okay.
would be a good idea. Thanks.
Roll call, please.
Director Landon,
Yes.
Director Reedy,
Yes.
Director Hadeschelt,
Yes.
Director Halden,
Yes.
Chair Gore.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. And now we have the consent agenda. So anyone want to remove an item from the consent agenda? Anyone from the audience want to remove an item? All right, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar or consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Hadeschelt, second by Reedy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. And we'll move to item 9A, the Circular Economy Innovation Competition Update. Emily.
Thank you, Chair Gore. Tonight, before your board, staff are recommending that your board chooses 1 or 2 board members to serve as judges on the 2025 Circular Economy Innovation Competition Judging Panel. And I'm happy to provide an update on this year's finalist entries. We are very excited. This year we received 34 viable entries into the competition, which is a pretty substantial increase from previous years. And as last week, member agency staff and the Carlson Center and I reviewed the applicants, and we were all very pleased and very blown away at the caliber of the entries and how they would directly benefit in many different cases, the WAPMA and its operations. So to share a little bit about each of those entries, because they are unique, I have a table provided along with the memo. The first is BioChosen, which utilizes organic solid waste and leachate, of which we have a lot, to produce a biodegradable packaging material for which they have a prototype created. The next is CRDC North America, which we were actually introduced to via GSEC. They're currently in the fundraising phase, and so I offered up to them that they may want to apply for our competition for the chance to win some funds. They utilize plastics 1 through 7 to create a lightweight aggregate that's used in concrete and asphalt production. The next is EcoAct Tanzania, which is located in Tanzania. And they are a revenue-generating business that uses multi-layer plastic to create furniture, building, and construction applications. And when the technical review panel and I were looking at this and their entry, we realized the only reason we wouldn't have moved them forward is because they were based out of Tanzania and not California. And so we decided to offer them up a space in the final. So we're working to see if we can schedule a Zoom pitch or something like that, if possible, to be able to include them. The next is Eco Firebuster. They use wood and yard waste to create a fire-resistant solution that can prevent and combat wildfires and industrial fires. The next is Enton. Very similar to our very first competition winner, AgGen. They use organic waste and black soldier fly larvae to create a FDA-approved feedstock and fertilizer. The next is Fluid. They recycle textile waste into products for pets. The next is Lorna M Design. They also recycle textiles, rubber, and plastic waste into high-quality backpacks, purses, and wallets. The next is Nextera Tech. They are a not necessarily an end user of a waste product. However, they have a lithium-ion battery detection, collection, and processing system that could help prevent facility fires, both here and on collection vehicle trucks. And then the last is Terra Nova Bio, which uses a fungal-based technology to recycle polyurethane plastics into reusable materials. So a very exciting crop of finalists this year, and also one of our larger finalist cohorts, which is very exciting.
Wonderful, great. Any questions for Emily?
No questions.
Cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love it.
Before we keep talking, any questions from the public? All right, then we have an opportunity to have one or two of us represented on that panel to listen to the finalists. I know that, have you done that before, Bill?
I think I've done it every year.
I'm gone that week, so you can
Yeah,
hide
and I
it
would
out.
do it, except we have a Capital Quarry Joint Powers Authority meeting that day, so.
John,
Very
are you,
interested, though.
are you interested?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you like to participate again?
would you like
I have, unfortunately, have a
Okay,
conflict.
sign me up then.
All right,
All right.
and it looks like it's Director Halden and Director Reedy, which is terrific.
don't
I
screw it
saw
up.
Dale Carlson this morning, and we were talking about it. He's like, this is so exciting. I love doing this. And it's really great when you have businessmen in the community. And of course, he's part of the Carlson Center. But right, that partnership with Sac State and having this opportunity
Yeah,
to
it's
really expose the WAPNA and actually come up with some really creative ideas.
Yeah.
So I think we have made a recommendation and we're good, right?
I think for this, that's fine.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much, Emily. Appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing about the fun you have that afternoon. And next we have item 9B, which is the new name opportunity for the Western Placer Waste Management Authority, since nobody really knows if you should say WAPNA or not, but we do. Go ahead, Emily.
Thank you, Chair Gore. So yes, tonight before your board, staff are recommending that your board provide direction to staff regarding establishing a DBA or doing business as name. I took the pleasure of diving deep in the archives of the WAPMA to pull a decent amount of this information. But this is a topic that has come up a few times and things like that over the years. And given the position that the WAPMA is in right now, we're about to have a grand opening for a wonderful, groundbreaking new facility, as well as a lot of the innovation that we're looking into, whether it's our partnership with the Regional Public Safety Training Center or the addition of the Eastern Property and Potential Innovation Hub. And so just to provide a little bit of background for your board, so when your board was first established in October of 1978, it was not known as the Western Placer Waste Management Authority. It was actually the WRSLA. Which is maybe worse. And so it was the Western Regional Sanitary Landfill Authority. And then I've included as an attachment in your packet the Fifth Amendment to the Joint Powers Authority, which formally changed the name of the agency to WAPMA, as we know it now, or WPMA, or WPWMA. So in 1993, we established the Western Placer Waste Management Authority as our name. Creating the logo icon that you see above us was in 2007, and we did adjust it a little bit, but for the most part, that's been a constant for almost 20 years. So I do outline some of the challenges that are associated with the WAPMA's current name from a brand recognition perspective, but also from a position of respect. Oftentimes, when people call in on the phone, they say, "This is the Lincoln landfill," and things like that. And especially as our agency really looks to the future, and I know that that's something that I'm very cognizant of, especially as your board has taken action that items don't go straight to the landfill. They have to first be processed and go through the MRF or the C&D facility. And so I think it does our agency a little bit of a disservice when we refer to it as the landfill or the dump, and one of the recommendations that we may have is having a simpler and more recognizable name that would make it a little bit easier for residents and other members of the community, staff and your board included, to reference the agency without having to garble out many consonants. We are recommending that your board choose to look at a path for a DBA as opposed to a formal name change. Western Placer Waste Management Authority still is a very good reflection of what the agency does. We manage wastes. That's at the core of what we do here at the WATMA, and that will never change, even though our recycling processes and diversion will continue to get better and things like that. Similarly, many other agencies have recently gone through a similar DBA name change, and I've listed off a few of them in your agenda, but also Cal Recycle, our governing board within waste management, did a name change several years ago, as well as the hauler Recology changed their name, and the hauler and processor WM changed from waste management to now simply WM, which also indicates some industry-wide shifts. So with that, it kind of leads me into our recommendation that your board consider and to provide direction on is that your board has given substantial consideration to the name Renewable Placer over the years, as I kind of outlined in the agenda or in the memo. Back when we first solicited Jacobs to develop the master plan for our EIR, it was determined that the name Renewable Placer be known as what we called our waste action plan, and so we've been using that sort of as our future-focused lens for the agency since 2018, and so. Staff believe that this is something that, given all the significant research and efforts that have gone into it, it seems like a very logical next step for the agency as we're moving in that direction. I will also say before I open it up to questions and feedback and direction from your board that when we ran this by the WATMA's technical analysis group, I'm very pleased to report we received overwhelming support for this item. So I think staff was not alone in thinking that perhaps a new name is something that the board should consider seriously.
And if I could add briefly, because I know we've talked about, opening up to other ideas, having community involvement in the survey, if, for throwing new names out there. Renewable Placer is one that is good, but it may not be the best option for us. But we're just looking for direction from the board.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Directors, thoughts, comments? Mr. Halden.
So can you refresh my memory and maybe help the new people? Who's Magma?
Magma is our contractor for their contract is technically for public information services. However, in recent years, it's for digital and design services. So per their contract, they help us with videography as well as additional graphic design support.
Okay. So, my first thought is I kind of like the Renewable Placer. I would like to maybe just kind of pause for a month to just think about it a little bit more because it's just, kind of came. I really like our logo because I think it really does a lot of, and I'm just talking about the green part. I don't know, I think it was kind of well thought out there. So I don't know, if we could maybe tweak it rather than let's do something completely different. But anyhow, that's my first reaction to that.
I had some similar. WATMA is a mouthful, so I certainly appreciate wanting to find something that maybe rolls off the tongue a little easier and is a little recognizable. I think taking a beat to talk to our cohorts at our home home office, as it were, would be useful. And I also think it might make sense, depending on how, if the DBA essentially is a half step to changing the name, because that's essentially what we want to do from the public's point of view, some experts and or analysis might be worthwhile, and a little more consideration about what we want the brand to be. Renewable Placer, I like the name of it. It's not really a DBA or a name of a thing. It's more of a tagline to me, it feels like, at least on first blush. I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but it feels a little premature to switch on a dime. Timing wise too, I wonder if it might make sense. I know there was, I think, some idea of timing it to the ribbon cutting of the MRF. I think also it might be useful to roll something like this out when the MRF is actually running and is doing a diversion rate that is kind of leading the industry. And once we get to that point, it'd be nice to kind of put the brand that's representing what the MRF is accomplishing, what we're actually already doing, as opposed to we cut a ribbon and we haven't turned it on yet. So I'm kind of with you where I'd like to take a beat maybe a little bit and maybe tap some additional resources if we're going to do something that's basically a wholesale rename.
I love the idea of changing the name for sure. I would be interested in just, I think it would be, I wouldn't want to go with like a consultant or anything to pay all this money to have them come up with ideas, but I feel like you're super smart and you probably are really creative with ideas to throw out to the public, that if you were willing to, on social media, do something through the WAMTMA's Facebook page and say, you know, these are some ideas, but what ideas do you have? And just kind of see if anything else percolates up that's like, oh, wow, we hadn't thought of that. I kind of agree on the logo. I think it would be kind of nice if we could kind of keep the spirit of it, but I'm not like married to that or anything. I think, so yeah, 100% agree with changing it. I would love to just see other ideas and engage the public on it. I think it would be kind of a fun, make them feel like they're part of it, you know, so.
Yeah, Chair Gore, but we do have to have a date certain, right? We can't just let this float on and on and on, right? Yep.
Not necessarily. This item's for discussion and direction only, so your
But I
board
mean, if
could.
we pause
yeah.
a month, then we come back in a month and make a decision.
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, I heard a lot of really good things. I think that, I love the idea of changing. I do think we need some time to think about it. I went to my team and said, hey, give me some ideas, right? Just because, like, I like Renewable Placer. What's interesting about these names, too, Stop Waste, Rethink
Right.
Waste. I mean, none of that, they're just sort of, you're right, taglines. It doesn't really describe it, but it's a whole lot like Cal Recycle really doesn't, it somewhat describes Cal Recycle, other than the long arm of the law.
Yeah.
You know, they're okay, but really it's just a better way to refer to us, right? And so I'm open to that. And I like your point about maybe not at the ribbon, well, not at our local ribbon cutting. Maybe it's, depending on how fast we do this, it could be when we do the bigger open house, or to that point, and we can talk about it more. Maybe it does make sense once things are going really, really well and we've ran it. I'm not really sure. But I'll just share with you what my intern came up with. Actually, Landon came up with Placer Renew and Re-Placer, because we recycle, reuse, whatever. But then, you know, she's just out of college. Placer Repurpose, Placer Refresh, Placer Recover, Placer Collect, Placer Reclaim, and our personal favorite, Placer Can. A little can. Anyway, probably wouldn't do that one.
big can.
But it,
One big can.
one really big can. The big best can. Anyway, nothing. But anyway, I do think that there's an opportunity to think about some ideas, and play with them a little bit, listen to our colleagues. It's not a bad idea of just getting resident input.
Yeah, I like that too.
And I think we're probably not going to come on like the best name, but it beats the WAPNA, right? Because as I was thinking about Placer Renew or Renewable Placer, I'm like, pick one. I mean, they're somewhat the same. I couldn't decide between the two which way it goes. So I don't think we can go wrong, per se.
You know, it is really interesting because none of these other names that the other agencies kind of say, we're an organization. It's like, you know, it's,
Yeah.
And Renewable Placer doesn't say we're an organization. It's like, I don't know, it's almost more like an idea.
Right.
And as are the rest of these, they're like ideas, you know, so,
The one challenge I have too is, will you ever actually get the public not to call it the landfill or the dump? You know, that may be a high bar for whatever the DBA is, but that would at least be aspirational. It's like, can you get them to call it that instead of the dump?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to call it, I'm going to, renew Placer to take my recycling. You know what I mean? Or, it's what I mean, like, everyone knows.
I'm going to the place where I can renew some stuff.
Right.
Well, I mean, Director Halden, you said it well, because this is really about branding the organization and incorporating the physical features of this, right? So a lot of what you're talking about is, I don't know if amorphous is the right term, but it doesn't really describe this. You know, we heard about, and you made a presentation about a circular economy, so, yeah, I need to have I think it's a great idea to rename, because I can't get the P and the W in the right place ever. Or the W and the M, I think
Yeah.
that's it. The W and the M.
It's a silent second W.
That's it. So I think it's a great idea to change and do a DBA and give it a month.
And it doesn't hurt us to like go back to some of our marketing
Yeah.
PIO folks and just get their ideas.
And if you do share it on social media, if you can let us know, I'd love to share it out there too and get people's input.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, I always tell people I'm going to the dump board. I don't say WAPMA because they wouldn't know what I was talking about.
You're part of the problem.
I know, but I'm not going to say WAPMA,
I
but,
tried at our last meeting.
you know,
and I
it
had
would
to
be
say dump,
interesting,
didn't know what I
could
was
we
saying.
envision people saying, I'm going to Renewable Placer, like, you know, like it's a place, you know, and maybe we could. I mean, I kind of think of that, well, that's, you know, but anyhow, so we'll do some more.
Maybe we
thinking.
could just call it the garden. We're going to the garden.
Yeah,
And people will just start to exist in the
Placer Garden,
Yeah.
if you call it the Placer
Go to the
Garden.
And I do think as we develop the land and bring in circular economy, businesses, they will say, we're at Placer Up, or we're at, whatever it might be.
Right.
And they won't say we're at the dump. And then, it.
Yeah, you need an
it does-
alternative.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
You need an alternative, for sure.
We could be Placer 2.
Placer.
yeah.
I'll write that down.
Hey,
You-
I
you
know,
can
that's
have a lot of fun
recycled.
with it, that
Second,
is true.
yeah, Placer's
Nice.
2, yeah.
You got me.
Well, and I do think, if y'all have ideas and thoughts, let's share them with Emily, which would be helpful, and see what we can come up with.
Yep.
All right. With that, anybody from the public want to opine?
You have an idea, Brian? Any name idea?
All right. I mean, Will, you've been here a long time, or we're here a long time.
I've been through all this before, and I never wanted to.
I feel like even the schools, like the high schools, or, like they could have a contest. Like, I know that would be a whole thing though, so maybe that's just too much. I'm just getting too excited.
All right, then let's just move to any reports from directors.
Not for me.
All right, any upcoming agenda items from our board or from you that we need to be aware of? No?
No.
Well, then with that, looks like we have finished our business this evening, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And actually, Emily, did you get the time that Director Halden walked in the door? Yes. Okay.
All right, excellent.
Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are we off? Are we done?